to a half an hour for the members, which you just did, which gave us all Operation Joy, what made us a little bit happier. So what are you doing back? Well, I'm glad you asked. I've got a breaking news that I wanted to share with you guys. Biden gets a little mugged by fellow Democrats. What happened there? Well, I'm going to tell you, isn't it? And then I'm going to go after a Democrat. That's a little less surprising. And it's about the fires, and it's affected me personally. It's affected my family. It's affected everybody in LA. So I'll get to that in a second too. All right. So right after we got off the air on the show, because it's live 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern every day, and then extra content. Remember, oh my God, there's the join button right below. If you hit that, you can get the extra content as well. You get all of our content. Anyway, so Biden has apparently decided to take Cuba off the list of state sponsors of terrorism. Okay, and that affects that's going to ease some of the economic sanctions on Cuba. And fellow Democrats in Florida are outraged. We had Cuba on the ropes. They're about to crumble and say, you win. We're going to go back to capitalism. Did we? Or are we just punishing the people of Cuba that didn't do anything wrong for decade after decade after decade, because some Cuban Americans in Miami and in the rest of Florida can't let it go? Look, I hear you, brothers and sisters, and you're really pissed about what happened 2.5 million years ago. I know there's a lot of people who are super mad about things that happened in history, but you're not getting your casinos back. And I know I'm not saying it in a belittling way. Like, I get it. Some of you had nothing to do with the casinos and all the other things that were happening in Cuba. You just had a house and you got driven out of it. And I'm not playing with you. I think that sucks. And I've never been one of these guys like, well, Castro, this, that. No, they took it with violence. A lot of things went terribly wrong. But here we are, again, 2.5 million years later. You still have fantasies about, and do you think, but even if you did, again, I get it, but you think the sanctions are going to do it? And they're a state sponsor of terrorism? Yeah, some things happened in the 1970s where they sponsored terrorism. By the way, so did we, but that's a whole nother matter. But you're still salty of this because Democrats in Florida have attacked him, including one of the most corrupt Democrats in the country, Nikki Fried, who runs the Florida Democratic Party. This is so ironic because she's the person who decided to do a secret nomination process where she didn't inform anyone of it, and said, oh, Joe Biden won the primary. Yep, nobody else showed up. So we're canceling the entire Democratic primary because I decided that Joe Biden should never be challenged. So super ironic that Nikki Fried, of all people, is now challenging Joe Biden. She's like, no, the Cuban government is no good terrorist. And what kind of lunatic? Come on. Really? The Cubans have been doing a lot of terrorism against us? What in the world are you talking about? And I know what she's doing. She's saying, don't worry, voters of Florida. We hate Cuban government just as much as you do. Please vote for us. That's not going to work anyway. Such a classic knuckleheaded Democratic thing to do. The Cubans in Miami who hate Castro's like it happened yesterday are going to vote Republican. They've been voting Republican for 50 straight years. I don't know when that's going to get through to your head. So the younger Cuban Americans are a completely different story. They had been leaning Democrat, but now Democrats not having delivered anything for a long, long time are losing them as well, but for completely different reasons. Anyway, look, I criticize Democrats and Republicans, so some folks get frustrated, etc., but we're always fair. Right? So Joe Biden, in this case, nice job. I think it's a perfectly good deal. I understand that Trump's going to reverse it immediately, but my main thing is apparently Pope Francis negotiated this, and the key part of the deal is that they're going to release 553 political prisoners over a stretch of time. Now, if Trump doesn't reverse it, we get political prisoners back from the communist regime in Cuba. That would be a great thing. We should all celebrate that. And they're not actually terrorists, so that's great. But it's possible that this is partly a gift to Trump, because then Marco Rubio is the Secretary of State. He's one of those zealot Cuban-American right-wingers in Florida, and so he'll come back and be like, no, the Cuban government is terrorist forever. Why are they terrorists? They haven't done a terrorist attack in 40 years, 50 years, because anyone we disagree with is called terrorist. But Israel killed 46,000 people at a bare minimum, and the overwhelming majority of them are women and children. No, no. Beloved Israel can do no wrong, but Cuba's a bunch of terrorists, and we have to call them that. No. Joe Biden, it's a great deal. I'm glad you did it. I hope it sticks. I hope that Trump and Rubio don't bring it back. Okay, now, there was another story where California Republicans attacked basically the idea of giving money to California wildfire relief. And they're saying, no, conditions should be attached. Man, I hope that comes back to bite them. I think that's an obnoxious, horrible thing to say. I think this idea of like, hey, look, no one's, in fact, I'm going to say it again now in a minute. No one's saying that Karen Bass and Gavin Newsom have been incompetent in dealing with this more than I am. But that doesn't mean you withhold money from people who desperately need relief. Those are actually citizens. They didn't do anything wrong. So if they start playing this nonsense game, then next time there's a Democratic president, how competent are the governors of Alabama and Mississippi? And because they're ranked 49th and 50th in almost every category. So what if a hurricane hits them or a tornado hits them, whatever hits them, we're not going to help them? No, that's like, don't force us into this civil war where every time there's a new president, either the blue states or the red states get no help. We're supposed to be a United States of America. But on the wildfires, that brings us to Karen Bass. So she's driving me crazy. And they got, by the way, they got markets on how quickly she's going to be removed from the mayorship, which I'll tell you about in a minute. So CBS's News's Jonathan Vigliotti actually asked a good question, which is very rare in mainstream media. Normally, they always say, oh, no, beloved corporate politician, Democrat or Republican, how can we in the press serve you? What marketing would you like? I mean, I'm doing hyperbole, but not by much. But here they've been a little bit more aggressive and good, but I actually think they should be 100 times more aggressive. This is gross incompetence. So look, I had to evacuate my parents. I know half a dozen people whose houses burned down completely, all their memories gone, all of everything in their house gone. It's absolutely tragic. And so Vigliotti asked a very fair question. Looking back, would you have taken that trip overseas? Now, I partially defended Karen Bass on the Ghana trip. How are you supposed to know if randomly a fire is going to break out? Others have pointed out, Cenk, it's not that random. It is that season. And this part I'm not clear on, but I've read that there was a warning about before she went to Ghana. Now, if that's true, I'm going to double check for you guys. We'll do it on the live show. When's the live show? Oh, right, 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern. Every day, Young Turks on YouTube. Okay, so, but if she knew and she left, not that the fires were definitely coming, but that they might be coming, that's a different story. That's already terrible. But that's not this question. This question is really easy. Looking back. So that means with the benefit of hindsight, do you think you should have taken that trip overseas? If I'm the mayor, I go, well, with the benefit of hindsight, of course not. Of course I wouldn't have gone to Ghana. I wouldn't have gone anywhere. And I would have been right here handling it for minute one. That's not that hard a question because he's telling you with the benefit of hindsight, looking back, right? But Karen Bass is, of course, not going to answer that question. She's maddening. She says, I'm going to focus today on, so that's diverting. I'm going to talk about today. I'm not going to talk about the past. Every greasy politician does the same thing to avoid responsibility. Republicans, Democrats, foreign leaders, etc. Vigliotti says, but please, if Bass says, on what? We? No, thank you. So in other words, no, she doesn't answer the question, even though it's the easiest question in the world. It's been so long since the fire started. Right in the beginning, when she came back from Ghana, a Sky News reporter asked her, and, hey, do you regret going to Ghana? Okay, and she sat there like a lump on a log. It was just the most embarrassing thing I've ever seen. Are you a leader? Do you have a message for your citizens? Can you communicate without a prompter? This is unbelievably embarrassing. So, but now you've had a week to think about it. You've had a week to craft the best possible answer on your trip to Ghana, and you still don't have an answer. It's just incompetence on steroids. And that one's just a political incompetence. But every time that I see her, she looks like a deer in the headlights. Like, everybody go to URL. Don't ask me any questions. Don't ask me any questions. Get control of the situation. You have to keep updating people and assuring them and telling them exactly what you're doing. I know you've got your press conferences where you literally read from a script they wrote for you, and apparently you haven't even read it. That's why you say things like go to URL, right? So she's been grossly incompetent. Look, we talked about it on the Young Turks. Like, the Republicans make it about race. Why? Why are you talking about DEI? Why? That has nothing to do with this. As she was elected, and the firefighters have been heroic in fighting back. So stop it. But then the Democrats defend her based on race. So you can't, not Democrats in general, but I've seen Democratic supporters, celebrities saying, oh, you're just doing this. She's a black woman. It's the worst fire in LA history. And we barely have any leadership. It doesn't have anything to do with her race. It has to do with, are you competent or not? So then, Polymarket is one of our sponsors. So I check their markets all the time. So I was curious, like, because I think last Wednesday, so about a week ago, is when Karen Bass's reelection campaign ended. I think she has no chance of getting reelected. But then now people are starting to talk about a recall. Last night, there was an article about recalling Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass. I think the recalls are overdone. That there's a thing called the next election, and that's your effort. That's your time to recall them. And I'm furious with Karen Bass, and I'm not sure I'd go in that direction. But anyway, so I checked to see what others thought and which way, they're putting their money where their mouth is, right? 52% chance they think that she will be out as mayor of LA in 2025. That is sky high. The election is in 2026. So folks that are actually, putting money on the line here think, yeah, they'll recall her. And I think it moved up to 53 as I was talking. That's amazing. Anyway, that they'll recall her. So, like I said, I'm not a big fan of the recalls, but if anybody's going to get recalled, Karen Bass is a good candidate for it. In fact, there's another one that they have on polymarket.com where it's 15% chance that she's going to be removed before April. So out as mayor of LA before April, and they got that as high as 15%. I think it's a little ambitious. So look, I see a comment here. Polymarket is skewed right. Guys, they're putting their money on the line. These are all individual bettors. Like this, I know there was this conspiracy theory that Polymarket's rigging it to make it seem like Trump's going to win. But when Trump actually did win is when you realize that that was a theory and not true. The people who bet on Trump didn't do it because they thought this will help Trump cheat. They did it because they wanted to win money, and they did because they were right. Now, that sucks for us, and I didn't want Trump to win, but that's what happened. So let's not become like the right wing and get conspiratorial and go down rabbit holes and no, these are people. And by the way, 85% are betting that she's not going to be out before April. And by the way, she's not going to be out before April. What are you going to do? Organize a recall and get it done by April and kick her out? Or she's going to resign on her own? She's not going to resign on her own. And you can't possibly do a recall that quickly. So if you think it's rigged, great, then go bet the other side. You make money. It doesn't make any sense. You can't rig things in real life. She's either going to be out as mayor by April or 2025, or she's not. So Polymarket doesn't run the world. They can't be like, ooh, now Karen Bass, you will leave, so 3 bettors can win. Anyways, I know. A lot of folks in the ecosystem like to come up with these theories and then go, don't watch DYT, just subscribe to us, pay us. I know, brothers and sisters. I know. Okay. So, and look, man, Polymarket has been a sponsor for a while now. It ends actually on inauguration day. And they spared a lot of jobs at TYT and a lot of money that other people could have contributed. So I'm thankful for it. And I've never seen any of those conspiracy theories be proven true. It's just the most obvious, blatant false things. In fact, it's actually super embarrassing if at this date you're saying, oh, Polymarket had a conspiracy to help Trump cheat, when we all know he didn't cheat and he won. How are you not embarrassed to still say that? I mean, all right, if you want to be Alex Jones on the left, that's up to you. God bless. Anyways, Karen Bass has done a terrible job here. And that has nothing to do with right wing or left wing. It has to do with the fact that when you've got a massive wildfire, you need to lead and you need to have prepared. Guys, please don't make excuses for your own side. You should demand the best from your side, the best candidates, so we can beat Republicans, so that we can get the policies that we want. Stop supporting super weak candidates and super weak politicians. If you bear hug Karen Bass and say, oh, she's a great Democrat, she represents our party, no, you're doing great damage to the Democratic Party. She's deeply incompetent and all of LA hates her now. Why would you bear hug her? You're dragging the party down with her. We should be in favor of competence and protecting citizens, protecting all of us. That's what the left should stand for. And she's just done a terrible job. Oh, I didn't know there was going to be a wildfire. And in LA, I'm only the mayor of LA, where wildfires happen all the time. Oh, the area right next to where the fires always break out has an emptied reservoir and we can't get water to it. No, brothers and sisters, you got to prepare better than that. And you, like, when a Democrat comes into office, I know this is a real dream of dreams, right? People should be excited and like, oh, here we go. We're going to get some things done. I'm going to work for the people, etc. But in California, there's no accountability. Oh, $24 billion for the homeless. Great. We want to help the homeless. So where is it? I don't know. I mean, press into California. Do 1,000 times better than you're doing now. You don't know where $24 billion went, and the press is just going to let it go? Where's the frickin' money? Where's the water? Where's the competence? Where's actually representing the voters? So I don't know when she's going to leave, but she's definitely going to leave. And if you're delusional and you think that Karen Bass is nailing this and people are just being unfair to her, you're going to have yet another rude awakening in the next election when she's beat super easy. But okay, pretend that everything's a right-wing narrative if you like, but there is such a thing as stone cold reality, and we're certainly dealing with it here in LA. And so let's pick Democrats that actually can do the job. Wouldn't that be amazing? All right, anyways, love you guys. Credit to Biden today on taking Cuba off the terrorist list, easing the sanctions, and getting political prisoners out of those jails. Great job, Joe Biden, on that. I've had 1,000 criticism of him, but every action has to be judged on its own merits. Always credit where credit is due, discredit where discredit is due. Much love, guys. Shows tomorrow. You're never going to guess what time it is. All right, 6 o'clock Eastern, every day, Young Turks on YouTube. Much love.